They're used to receiving the money in their bank account. They're used to reverse factoring solutions or other ones. So it's really about if I'm a buyer, how can I communicate those benefits, not just that I receive as a buyer, but how can I work hand in hand with my suppliers to come to a win-win situation with a tool that gives me agility, flexibility, guarantees, and all the efficiencies I can take care of. So it's really, where does this fit? And then how do I go about enabling it from an accounts payable finance standpoint, but then also with my suppliers who I don't want to leave behind either.
Yeah, well, it's like a changing in mind of how payments in B2B market works. So the changes from the buyer to the supplier, of course. I don't know if you agree with me, but in my daily experience, for example, with our clients, another big challenge that I'm experienced with them is integration. What I mean with integration, we say that one of the big benefits of this product is that is easy to integrate in a complex payment flow for our corporate, and this is also a big challenge because depending on the size of the corporate and also on the technological maturity of the corporate, it could be easier or not to integrate this kind of solution in their payments flow. So the market is trying to standardize the product, but it's not always easy because depending on the size and the maturity, you can offer one kind of solution or another, less complex, for example. But in the other side, I can see that integration also open a door for added values for this product, right? Because in a world where integration is increasingly and it's very important, with this kind of product, thanks to the automation of the product, of the solution, you can integrate with third party and add more value to your solution, your payment solution. So Matt, what about this added value? Which kind of added functionality we can see in virtual payments with virtual cards?
Where do I start? So really, let's go by use case, right? Let's take a couple examples and go by use case where, we were mentioning earlier that different customers have different needs, long tail, strategic supplier spend, etc. So let's take the example of, the typical example of I need to make a payment as a company to send a computer to a new employee's house who's going to be starting, or I need to have more staplers or printers sent to my office, right? So it's those ad hoc kind of payments that generate a lot of pain. So what these kinds of tools and virtual cards can give you is not only the basic functionalities we talked about of making the payment actually easier, but it's, if I'm a corporate administrator, these kinds of payments leave room for, let's not call it fraud, but for disorganization, right? So what I need to have is visibility into the status of every single payment that's going to be made. So what I can do is, from a very basic user interface standpoint, download ad hoc customized reports of who's requested what cards for what purpose, what payments have made, what payments need to be made later on, what information is exactly associated with each payment. So I have this exact customizable visibility according to my own internal policies and rules that I can then generate in terms of audit, management, etc. Right? So I guess the first main value add I would say service you can add is these customized reports for spend monetization and visibility, right? But then maybe going to your point on integration, right? Then we make our way up the ladder in terms of amount of payments being made, amount of money being spent. There, it's not feasible to say I'm going to need to manually create an individual payment one by one because I don't have 10, 15 people who are in charge of doing that, and there's a lot of room for error. So what a lot of virtual card payment services can do, including the ones we have at MasterCard, is integrate with whether it be procurement platforms, ERP modules, electronic data interfaces, embed these kinds of services into existing platforms, environments, flows where buyers and suppliers are communicating, sending information to one another, such that the payment becomes invisible, right? So that it's part of my day-to-day flow, and I'm not asking anyone who's managing these kinds of procurement flows to do anything different. Simply make a purchase request, get it approved, approve the invoice, and have that automatically generate the payment on a credit term, just like I would do for other products, but integrated into existing flows. So I guess that would be the next one, I would say, in terms of the value add that can happen. We have many use cases, and happy to go into more detail there. Hope we have enough time, but more sort of where is this sort of going? The virtual payments. So we talked about the historical necessity that if I want to pay suppliers with this virtual payment, virtual card, oftentimes I depend on the supplier having tools to accept a card payment, right? But what we've, through partners and through new developments we have the buyers now have the ability to get all the cash flow, control, visibility, administrative benefits that virtual cards offer without needing the suppliers to actually accept card. So what we're doing is essentially making much more attainable and achievable that more strategic spend that doesn't depend on suppliers having mechanisms to accept card, which in some cases can be easier, some cases can be more difficult, right? So I guess that's probably the third point. And then lastly, and I promise this will be the last one, all of this sounds great. We talked about virtual cards. There's no plastic, no anything, right? Hence the term virtual. But what about in-person purchases, right? Where there's a lot of I need an employee to make an in-person purchase to go buy materials downstairs that I need urgently to assemble a pitch book for a customer. Or I'm a big restaurant chain and I need to go to the market and order some fish for a large dinner that I have that came in at the last minute. Or I have someone who's coming for an interview and they don't have the money, or I don't want to make them out of pocket the flight, the hotel, etc. Right? So there's a lot of inefficiencies in in-person payments with personal cards, checks, cash. And a new development that we also have at MasterCard is the ability for a corporate administrator to not only generate virtual cards for online payments and remote payments, but to create a virtual card and then send it to a mobile device tokenized so that that employee, contractor, person who's coming for an interview can make those purchases online and or in person in a very controlled and visible manner with all the controls that we mentioned at the beginning, all the additional data that comes with it for spend visibility, and sort of bring the two worlds together, both physical and virtual. So long answer, a lot of things happening, but as you said, the product and functionality itself is very, let's call it very powerful, very basic at the same time, which is the beauty of the solution, but the real benefits can be extracted in the most beneficial way when you incorporate it into these different environments and different purchasing channels.
Yeah, well, it seems very interesting the word behind the virtual payments available in B2B market, because we have a lot of option in a lot to work to do, of course, but marketing moment. Last year in CaixaBank, in collaboration with MasterCard, we just launched a solution for virtual cards in B2B payments, and the solution is based on a real credit card. This real card is linked to a platform in which the client can generate as many virtual cards as they need for the payments to suppliers they need to do, with the limitation of the credit line. And of course, this platform and this solution give to our clients, as we were saying before, a lot of control, a lot of autonomy, a lot of automatization, because they can generate the virtual cards with the limits and the controls they need and they want. They can use this payment solution for the suppliers they decided it's the better way to pay them. And it's as much automated as they want and as they maturity in IT in their corporation. So it's a very powerful solution, and give them a lot of control also about, with the reconciliation and with the full reports that they can get from the platform. So, well, I think we did a pretty good job, right, Matt?
I hope so. No. It's continuing on your marketing moment. That like you said, in the end, these are powerful tools, right? That in the end let give companies a lot of flexibility, adapt to their own specific situation, but at the same time have universal benefits in terms of controls, cash flow, process efficiencies, visibility, all that we commented on. It is a relatively new and innovative solution that we have in the market here as of very recently. But at least from our standpoint, very excited to have participated in this project and work together to continue making it grow.
Yes, we hope the product can grow with our works. So to sum up a bit, we saw what virtual payments are. We saw that virtual payments are increased a lot in the last few years. We saw what are virtual cards, the benefits, challenges, added value, market tendencies. So to close, Matt, what we can expect from the future in this field, in B2B market with virtual cards and virtual payments?
Yep. So as a closing remark, maybe if we think about the consumer, we haven't talked about consumer payments at all yet, but if you think about consumer payments, right, there's more and more digital platforms, there's more and more marketplaces coming online. But that's also going to be exponential in the B2B world, right? That where, due to various trends, globalization, supply chain shortages, just a digitalization of the supply chain in general, there's more and more marketplaces, online channels that are becoming consumer-like, but where companies are buying and selling to one another, whereby a more traditional payment transactional product may have more difficulties because it's not as immediate, it doesn't offer the control, it's not as internationally accepted. So what can we expect in the future? That as sort of purchasing channels adopt to this more digital world, that the payment and financing that's embedded into these systems and flows needs to adapt itself as well. And I think what we discussed on virtual payments, obviously we're biased here, but it fits well into these flows for both buyers and suppliers, which is important because in the end we're talking about ecosystems. I think we're definitely going to see a lot of continued growth in this space, both in the domestic and international market, and that's going to go hand in hand with those other tendencies I mentioned. So very optimistic about what we're going to see in the future.
Well, let's see if you're right or not. We can come back in a few years and see what the market finally. Well, so I don't know if we ran out of time. So if there are some questions, this is the moment. Or if you are shiny, we can answer your question later privately. Okay, well, thank you so much to be here with us this afternoon. And of course, thanks, Matt, to be here with me as always.
Pleasure as always is mine.
Thanks.